Welcome, Wise Chat. It is Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. Producer Henry here saying thank you for joining us for Wisecrack Live. We have a special guest today, as you saw in the thumb. Kat Abu is going to be joining us in a bit. Mike will be with us in just a moment as you get cozy, like that stream, and, give us a few words. Let me know what you're doing today. Hope everybody's Wednesday is going well. What up, Sean and Chris and Penny and Rob and Elliot and Lux Weaver and Nimged? Nimged, am I reading that right? So many people in chat already. What up, Mim and Joel and William and New Paradigm? Wow, we have a new paradigm in the chat. Amazing. Old Grease, you are not a joke. You were once a lord of the chat. I will not forget that. Got Daniel in full circle, and the not so Slim Shady, who is not introducing Obama on stage in Detroit. Barbara, good luck. Is it AKA 7 or AKA 7? Either way, good morning. Hey, Clownicus, welcome back. And Albert Camus, Albert Camus in the chat. Whoa. Hey there, David. And yeah, Mav, I see the Stream Elements bot in the chat. I'll be tweaking with that. I was having some chat issues this week and got it working, but looks like I'm still ironing out some kinks.
Happy Wednesday, October 23rd, everyone. We're 8 days from Halloween, a day that many people love. And I don't really, but that's okay. I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. I'm wrong and you're right. If you are watching this video after the fact, or you're tuning in for the first time, Kat is going to be joining us at the half-hour mark. So just everyone know, if you're here for the Kat Abu conversation, what's going to happen. But I just, I'm sort of a soothsayer, sort of a look into the future type guy, and I can see comments on this VOD in the future that are like, why did I have to listen to this guy talk, for 30 minutes? I wanted to hear Kat talk. Why is he here? Why was he born? Why did his parents meet? Why did his parents make love on a work trip in Puerto Rico in early 1984, and why did they go through with it? Yeah,
is
did
this
I just
live?
tell you how I was conceived? Did I just tell you how I was conceived? Another story about my conception, guys. My dad, I guess, like the week I was conceived, almost got arrested in Puerto Rico for trying to buy weed from an undercover policeman. So I know that is true. But either way, we're here. And I'm excited about Halloween to dress my daughter up like a pumpkin. I didn't believe my wife when she said it would be cute. But you put a 15-month-old in a pumpkin where they're little and the pumpkin's big. It's cute, and you can't deny that. Which dad is a very good question. I don't know why Jadakiss came up, but I'm excited that Jadakiss came up. Mav, I was talking about Jadakiss at a meal the other night. So we are going to be talking about Christian nationalism today. If you watched our video from Friday, we got into some of this then. So on Friday, we put out a video on the Theo Bro movement, the Catholic integralist, Curtis Yarvin, and a host of thinkers that are using a weird reading of Christian theology to argue for a sort of synthesis or even full, kind of summation. I don't know. Someone says the audio is better than normal. Awesome. But in that video, we talk about that. And Kat put out a great video last week. It's in the link to this stream right here that breaks down in a lot of detail Christian nationalism. And, I think it gets more into the way in which the tentacles of that movement have worked themselves into the political mainstream. We didn't really get into that sort of stuff. So very excited to chat with Kat about that video. And I think if you're into the topic, I think that her video from last week and our video from last week are very complementary. Oh, wow. Now I want to listen to Why again. Chris, I was describing a Jadakiss song to a group of people at dinner the other night, and I think I upset them. Oh my God, you found the lore log.
Needed to update them with you just dropped new lore, so of course.
Yeah. I will say as well that some people got mad about Monday's stream. If you didn't watch Monday's stream, it was a quick one. We looked at Donald Geraldo Trump's brief experience working at a Mickey D's in Pennsylvania. We tried to talk about how Donald Trump working the Fry Line, like a real working American, really, the new Tyler the Creator stuff sounds awesome. Lori, I'm so excited for that album. But how we could see a relationship between what Trump did there and the consummation of the system of German idealism as inaugurated by J.G. Fichte, carried on by Schelling and Hegel. I got a little excited on that stream. I did some remixes. We listened to some Trump lines over and over and over. And, I kind of I've gone back and forth in the past few days of looking at some of the comments that I couldn't watch this. No one should let Michael do that. He went too far. Was he off his meds or on too many meds? And after a few days of careful reflection, I'm just going to say I do not apologize. I think it was fun and I liked it. If you didn't, that's fine. But I did. Someone said, "Where's the fun?" Vernon Hampton. We have so much fun on this show. And you know what? I'm going to say it. This channel's gotten way more fun under my reign. I'm just going to say it. It's gotten goofier. It's gotten weirder. It's gotten more interactive with the audience. We have a fun community. We do weird stuff. To say that this channel isn't fun now is silly.
They did not see you do the DJ stuff last show.
Yeah, are you kidding me? This channel's not fun? Come on. We suck at a lot of things, but we don't suck at having fun. We do not suck at having fun. Also, just doing announcement time here. If you've not checked it out yet, our second channel, Wisecrack 2, is launched. We have we've launched our movie podcast, Show Me the Meaning. Producer Henry is on the ones and twos for that one. They had a great episode on Furiosa last night. So do check that out. The VODs are up over there. The podcasts come up on all your podcast apps and stuff like that, so you can check it out later. And we're 8 days away from the official video essay launch of that channel, where we have someone said, "I think some of us are genuinely concerned about you." Come on, Henry, are you concerned? Do you want to put me on mental health watch?
You had a bit of a cough, from what I understand. How's that going?
That is true. I do have a little bit of a cough because I live in a cycle of viral illness inaugurated by a small child. It's like she gets sick because we let her hang out with other kids now, and then she brings in, it is a dog whistle, Victoria. It's like, I like the channel when it was less political. It's like you're basically saying like I like the channel when I could watch it as a white nationalist and not feel called out in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, like, and people do take stuff really seriously on the internet. It's so weird, guys. Stop it. Let's just have fun. Nothing means anything. But yeah, there's a cycle of illness in my house. I have a little bit of my daughter's cough right now. I think it makes me sound more masculine. So that's good. Sometimes I listen to my own voice on a podcast on a show and I just think like, I get it. I do sound like a snowflake cuck. I get why people would say that. But now, but now, you know. So let's check out some of your comments from the last week. Before we do, just a quick reminder that we have a great coffee partner. Yes, please. I'll talk about them more later. But I brought myself a cup of Yes, please in a great mug, the company of which I will not share because no free ads. Um, but you know, so we're gonna do that. I do think that sometimes you're a bit manic. Yeah, I think that's just kind of me, man. That's just kind of me. Uh, and I hope you know that. Oh man, some more news just dropped a video. The manic thing is it's just me, so don't worry. It's not like a new thing. I just kind of, I'm jazz. I'm jazz. I'm freestyle. I'm chaos. I'm energy. I'm a black hole. I'm a wormhole. I'm Einstein. I'm Stephen
You're
Hawking's computer voice. I'm all of these things at once.
you're also loaded up on coffee.
I'm jacked up on coffee, you guys. Seriously, fucked up. I might die from this. Wait, the roast I have today, it's like the single origin from 3 weeks ago. It's not the bag that I have with me. Okay, so we'll look at some comments. Again, this is Wisecrack Live. We're going to be talking with Kat Abu in a little bit about white Christian nationalism. Just to be clear, we're not going to be saying it's good. We're not going to be saying as an objective philosophy channel, we're really going to consider the pros and cons of an ideology that says that God chose one particular people to lord over all others, and that slavery can be a good thing sometimes if it leads people to the Lord. No, we're not going to this isn't a Jubilee video, guys. We're not like, oh, we put both sides in a room. We'll let them just work it out. No. Okay? No, 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 no. That was a self remix. But we're going to have a great discussion about it. But if you're here as a white Christian nationalist, I'll say if you are here as a white Christian nationalist and you're down to listen, you know what? Hang out. Have fun. If you're here because you think that we're about to be like, you know what? We've come around on these guys. They have some stuff to say and we're here to let them say it. No. Are you crazy? Are you insane? No. Okay. But speaking of things that aren't crazy or insane, let's take a look at the comment section of YouTube videos. What Mrs. Lone? Okay. Oh, this is Big Rob. This is Big Rob right here, guys. You don't want to mess with this guy. I'll say this: having met Rob in real life, he had sort of like a sturdy build, and I think if he wanted to, he could beat me up. But he seems like a really nice guy. But like I just think if I ever wronged Rob, he could beat me up. So if you're my size or smaller, I would just consider how you interact with Rob. I said, this is one of the top 10 best streams. Love watching people talk about religion the way I, an atheist, talk with my Christian friends who are awesome people. That was from our CJ the X conversation last Wednesday, which, I think has flown under the radar for a little bit, but it's maybe one of our best streams ever. And I think that, tonally different than some of our streams because it was less ADHD than normal and was more like a real drawn out 2-hour conversation. But I really had a hell of a time talking to CJ. I think that the plan wasn't to talk about religion for an hour, but the plan kind of was that there was no plan. And I think CJ is such a thoughtful, interesting person, and having them on here was great. So do check that out if you haven't. And Rob, that means a lot that you enjoyed that. Old Grease says it warms my hip hop heart to see how you feel about having bars. Old Grease, former and probably future Lord of the Chat. Thanks for that. I almost did a thing the other day. And I'll tell you my problem, guys. My problem, and this is probably an ADHD symptom, I struggle to have a barrier between my internal and external lives. Okay? So like right now, I'm going to tell you a thing that's an internal thought I had that I have not externalized yet. But I'm just going to tell you because for whatever reason, I feel like when we're together, I can just say whatever and be who I really am. And I appreciate you guys for letting that happen. Because even if you don't accept it, I feel like you tolerate it. But I did have this thought of like, maybe of wanting to hit up CJ and see if I could drop a verse on one of their songs and then just have no have there be no connection to me. So no one in the world knows that it's me except me and CJ. I still might ask them. So this is from Eden Punk Noob, and I assume this is it's from Friday's
this is from
video.
Friday's vid.
You know, rich people don't read when they just casually recreate published satire, and I think here it's referring to Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal, which was satire about how the English were eating Irish babies, which they functionally were. Yeah. If you didn't watch Friday's video, please check it out. But Curtis Yarvin, and he's one of these guys that does the like, but I'm just kidding. Oh, it's just a thought experiment thing. And it's like, nah, man, you're pretty, you want it. If you could put the poor into like a wood chipper system and reuse them for fuel for your psychotic tech monarchy, you would. You would. And I was going to do this today. Maybe we'll do it next week. I have a lot of leftover clips and material from the Curtis Yarvin and Christian Nationalism video. If you guys want that, we could do a sort of like B-sides stream sometime soon. Because oh boy. We didn't get into the whole section where he talks about being on Ozempic and how he makes himself like sort of unofficial Ozempic by ordering chemicals from chemistry websites and clicking it there for science and then injecting them into himself. These people. Wario. Ooh, Old Grease, I'm going to finish these comments and then I'm going to jump back to your super chat. I'm letting you know that. I'm a man of my word. Wario DDD said, we want them running towards the sound of gunfire. Holy fuck. It went from rifle pins to guns in classrooms to making children face down a killer. These people are unhinged. If you didn't see Friday's video, again, friggin' watch it. There's this one pastor, Doug something. I forget these people's names because they're bad people, but this one ministry based out of Moscow, Idaho, made a documentary about how to raise Christian men. And one of the things they say in this video that's a real thing, and we show the full clip so you can't be like, but what about context? This motherfucker says they want men who, when a Parkland shooting happens, they don't run away from the gunfire. They run towards the gunfire because their reading of what it means to be a Christian, right? A faith that, and CJ and I talked about this last week, is largely grounded in like communal living and charity and turning the other cheek and loving the stranger and caring for the widow, the orphan, the immigrant, all that. They're just like, no, you got to be a fucking Bruce Willis had a baby with 1980s Sly Stallone and then made love to a gun type person. It's nuts. There's a clip in Kat's video. I mean, there's a lot of clips in there that are insane. She did a great job of pulling clips for that. But there's one where some pastor is like, I'm a Christian, but I'm done turning the other cheek. And that was a mellow version. I think he says it in a scarier way. Just like, what are they doing? This is from Mom's Castle. Says, this is legitimately the happiest I've ever seen him, referring to Donald Juarez Trump. It says, when he's in prison, they should let him be the fry cook. I agree. I think he'd be good at that. He's never going to go to prison, though. Teflon Don. It is what it is. Like, it sucks, but he's never going to prison. I'm going to go find the super chat. Old Greasekin has joined Rap Song, too. I think that is fair. So let's see. Well, thank you as always for your comments. I really appreciate them. Let me see something real quick. Doing a little thing right here. Yeah, as always, we do look at your comments, so know that when you leave them, they might end up on the stream sometime. And know that if they're really mean, that they can affect people and that hurt people. There's like a reply person, I'm pretty sure is a reply guy on the old Wisecrack Twitter account these days who got involved again, who's like obsessed with the fact that he, apropos nothing, said Marx killed 1 million people or something like that. And then when I basically asked him to give me some sort of textual evidence that could link Marx to the deaths of 100 million people, and then he keeps telling me I'm avoiding his debate because I'm a pussy. I just want to say this: if you want to like engage with someone and you want them to talk to you and take you seriously, you probably shouldn't be like, you're just a pussy. You know, like maybe I am, but still. Someone said, why you never make videos on modern analytic philosophy? Arson, that's a great question. We've made a couple that touch a little bit more, and then we have one on pragmatism, which I would consider at least having a foot in modern analytic philosophy. The real issue is that my entire background, for the most part, and I like have a undergrad understanding of analytic philosophy, but my background is in European philosophy. So you know, a lot of 19th and 20th century European stuff, German idealism, Kierkegaard, Marxism, existentialism, contemporary materialism. You know, I get a little bit into like philosophy of mind and neuroscience and philosophy stuff. That's about as close as I get to analytic stuff. So it's a matter of we always want to like know what we're talking about and make sure that what we're doing is at the highest possible quality. So I think until we have some researchers in our wheelhouse that are good at that, we will probably not talk about it as much. So I'm sorry about that. Please do like the stream if you have not or already. Just a couple random things before we really get cooking as well, and before Kat joins us. I saw that Severance is coming back today. I'm very excited about that. Have you watched Severance, Henry?
I have not. It's on Apple TV, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one service I don't really have access to. Well, I don't really watch like the Paramount or the Peacock stuff much either, but yeah, I do not. Are you a fan of Severance though?
Pretty big Severance head. And I think that it's a show that gets at the, you know, psychology of modern work and sort of the way in which under capitalism we're asked to become two different people, or the way in which often the solution to the subsumation of our identity by work under capitalism. Someone said I subscribe just to unsubscribe. There's some like analogy to masturbation there, and I'm not sure exactly what it is yet. But yeah, I think Severance does a really good job at the thing that it does. I'm just gonna answer a few questions before Kat joins us. Arsene, it's not a one-person channel; it's a small team. I am our house philosophy person, though. Mood said, "What's your doctoral thesis on?" It's the stuff that my book is, and I've said before, you're welcome to like illegally download my book. It's out there. It was on Soren Kierkegaard and German idealism. So Trump, basically. And so Soren Kierkegaard's a philosopher historically seen as kind of a Christian existentialist, and I offer a kind of materialist and political reading of Kierkegaard. Some people get mad at it. Guys, let's not keep subscribing to unsubscribe. I'm gonna lose my friggin' job here because of you guys. Yeah, and you know, as always, we're now less than 2 weeks from the American election, which we know nothing about. Henry and I have decided to stay completely out of politics, so neither of us know anything that's happening. So, you know, there you go. I was going to say something else and now I forget. But let's do this real quick. Some of you know this. We have our coffee contest. We had our first winner last time. I've already got some submissions for the second one. We do have this ongoing coffee contest. The prompt, and I'll keep the prompt what it was sort of how do you enjoy or how do you like your coffee? I think if you can interpret that as creatively as possible, we would appreciate it. We looked at the finalist last week on the stream. You can go check those out. But again, our coffee contest is with our friends over at Yes Please. They're an LA-based coffee roaster. They're not some influencer marketing company. This isn't some bullshit where some Silicon Valley D-bags are buying overflow coffee from a shitty roaster and putting a cool font on it and being like, oh, take these Columbia grads figured out a survey that'll match you with the perfect coffee beans. It's all fake, guys. It's all ideology that makes us feel like we're free when we're not, and they don't do that. They're just 4 people that make coffee that's good, okay? And they care about it. And they don't pay us money to say this. We get a tiny kickback if you use our code Wisecrack. The code Wisecrack gets you 20% off Yes Please Coffee. I know 100 of you have tried Yes Please Coffee now. So that's exciting. They gave me that number and it made me really happy. And again, I say this as someone who's marginally addicted to coffee. I think addiction is bad, but if you're going to be addicted to something, this is better than a lot of the other options. So Yes Please Coffee, link in the description, all that sort of stuff. Check it out. Reminder as well, put it on your calendar. December 13th, Friday. We're streaming all day, baby. Streaming all day, 12 hours. All day. I'm going to, I shouldn't tease some of this because not all of it's confirmed, but like, have you ever thought, what if they did a Wisecrack Philosopher Reacts video just live, not pre-recorded, just live, like a live show? That's going to happen. Our friend Naima Trout, remember her from the Charlie Kirk debate? Came and talked to us. Well, I'm putting together a team of debaters to take her down. I'm putting together the best and brightest. Now, you might ask yourself, are these going to be real people or are these going to be Los Angeles-based improvisers and actors that Michael and Lux and others construct weird personalities for to do a really absurdist satirical debate? Is it that? Is it real? Who knows? But they're going to take her down live on the stream from a studio set. We have some friends that are going to come over. We have one of Los Angeles' most elite video game makers, Kevin Horst, is going to come here and premiere some new video games for us that we're going to play with some comedians and gamers. We're going to have some comedians on. We're going to have some musical guests. We're going to be raising money. We haven't decided the charity like 100%, but I think it's very likely to be to help make sure that children in Gaza can have some stuff this holiday season when the rest of us are hanging out watching TV and ignoring our families. It's going to be a great time, but you can put that on your calendar for December 13th. If you are in the Los Angeles area and you think you might want to come hang out live, hit us up at wisecracklive666@gmail.com. And maybe you can come. I still haven't decided if it's a cool idea to invite some of you to come here or if that's me asking to be murdered. Chat, let me know what you think about that. But enough of me. No one cares about me. I think it's probably time we should get Kat on because everyone's about to claw their eyeballs out.
And yeah, Kat is in the waiting room, so we can get to it.
Cool. Awesome. We'll see if it works. I feel like every time we pull someone in, we pull them in and they leave and then they come back. So we'll see what happens this time. Okay, while Henry works on that, guys, I'm going to read a poem to you. I can't read my poem now. See, it happens every time. It does the thing. Listen, guys, we're a professional operation here. We're high level. Like the stream if you haven't already.
You hear me? Hello, how are you doing?
Hey, Kat, how are you?
I'm pretty good.
Nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, for everyone who knows, we've never met before, so I'm going to try my best to be a nice person. Kat, do you feel like doing video? There's no pressure if you don't want to.
Yeah, absolutely. I put on makeup for it.
Oh, well, now I felt like I should have. I did wash my face and use products this morning.
That's a lot for a man.
Oh, listen, this is why I get called a cuck lib pussy in the comments, because I do things like put on put on face products so I can not look
I wish some of these
decrepit.
people realize it's like the hottest thing a man can do.
I encourage it. I'll say that right now. I know our audience is largely made up of younger men. It's a very simple, nice thing to do, fellas. Treat yourself.
Treat yourself.
You ever hang out at home one night, put on a face mask, watch a program you like?
Yes. Did I do it?
There you go.
Hello, hi.
Hey, it's always fun to talk to someone who I've seen in videos a bunch of times in a similar setting and then see that they're a real person. We know there's a lot of AI out there these days. So
yeah, I am unfortunately a real person.
Well, fortunately for us, you're real. Maybe unfortunately for you, because I've seen your mentions sometimes and you have a way of attracting the weirdest people ever. So thank you for persisting and continuing to make cool stuff. And for those, I'm sure most people here have watched some of your stuff, but have really, really enjoyed your videos as of late, especially the election-based stuff, the way that you've talked about some of the problems that the Democratic Party has with Palestine, or their lack of interaction with Palestinian Americans. I think that stuff has been really, really cool and important, and it's cool that you're making it. But I was very excited last week when you put out a video on white Christian nationalism. It was right before we had one coming out as well. So I first had the fear of like, oh no, I hope we don't talk about the same stuff, because then it's like we copied you. Luckily, it's different because there's so much horrible stuff related to that topic that people could talk about it for a while. So let me ask you this: what got the ball rolling in you wanting to do a very long, hour plus deep dive into the horrifying world of white Christian nationalism?
So I had been wanting to do this video for a while, actually. And I read this one book, The Flag and the Cross by Samuel Perry and Philip Gorski, which a lot of the video is based on. And it's just like a really interesting read. It's these sociology professors that show how Christian nationalism goes across races, but it affects white Christian nationalists extremely differently, because you believe much more right-wing misinformation if you're a white Christian nationalist versus if you are a black one. And so I've been wanting to do this video for a long time, but I was working at Media Matters, and while I was there, all of my videos were in my spare time. And as you could see from that video, it takes a lot of work. So when I got laid off, some people from People for the American Way Foundation, which reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in doing this video, asked if I'd be interested in doing this video. And I said, absolutely. And so we started working on this. And the goal was just to explain, like make a very basic but thorough primer on what this is, because people know the term white nationalism or Christian nationalism. And what they usually mean is white Christian nationalism. So the goal was to try to give perspective on what it is and how thoroughly it affects all of our politics. And I hope that we accomplished that. It was definitely a short timetable. We finally officially connected in like September, and we set the date for like October 15th, October 16th, but we got it out.
Yeah, and you did a really good job of it.
Thank you. So did
and I mean,
y'all.
something I like the way in which you connect whiteness to it feels really important, because I think there is a way in which, like you just pointed out, people can not even give it a pass, but think about Christian nationalism as a purely, I guess, like theological movement, in so much as it's people thinking that their set of religious beliefs should be applied to the political structure of a nation, which I'm not saying that's good, but you could see how someone could be like, well, okay, I don't want that, but I see where it's coming from. But I think the video does such a good job of tying the thread of whiteness to it, not as an incidental thing, but a really essential thing to that project. And the way in which sometimes it feels like, and this is like the experience when doing research for the video we put out last week, realizing how much like atheist white supremacist and white Christian nationalist have in common at their core, and the way in which so many elements of this project are just kind of like white supremacy with a cross necklace on or something.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like they used words, I mentioned this too, of like they used dog whistles. So like white Christian nationalism is not about the religion. You can argue that all Christian nationalism, which is like, the idea that America is a Christian nation, which once again applies to all races. There are people of all races that believe that, is political. But white Christian nationalism is specifically about that. And they use dog whistles like Western civilization or Judeo-Christian values to push that among more agnostic or atheist far-right people.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering, do you have thoughts? And I know you talk about some of this in the video.
I have so many thoughts about so many things.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, actually that was my only question. Do you have thoughts? We'll do 10 of them in order. But what are your thoughts on why? Because obviously you get into it. This is not a new thing. It has been around for a very long time. We have people that used the Bible to defend why slavery was good for leading enslaved black people to Christ, which is, batshit crazy thing to say, but still. What is it about right now, in the last few years, that you see is leading to the both resurgence of this, and in a sense, it does feel like it's become way more mainstream than it has historically?
Yeah, I mean, I think like my background in my education, which people love to be like, how do you know anything about genocide or like, war crimes? My background is I studied international affairs focusing on like genocide and atrocities. And there are so many parallels that we see from right now to, 1933 and 1930. And it's this paranoia. These white Christian nationalists and white nationalists and far right actors, they're terrified because people like women or minorities or queer people are getting a piece of, the civil rights pie, which for them is a zero sum game. They see that as, well, they're taking away our freedom to rule over them. And it's similar to, the 1930s, and especially Mussolini, who appealed to traditional values of this paranoia, this terror of progress, of not having full control, not having full power with the government's consent. And so people are trying to go back to this idea of, well, God told us it's okay. We become a more secular society just in the fact that we don't think that the Christian religion should rule anything, or a lot of us don't, and or rule everything. And so people are using that as an excuse to say, well, this is a divine will that we should rule everything. And it's your fault as a modern, liberal cuck to think that you have any authority over God, which is once again who we're listening to. And you can't be wrong if you're listening to God.
Yeah. I mean, it's just wild too, like knowing even like the history of Christianity and its overlap in politics in 20th century America. If you look at the anti-war movement and civil rights movement, you had like a broad coalition of Christians in America and like faith leaders from across the divide that were super involved and influential in that. You look at especially like the Catholic voting bloc. I have a pet interest in this coming from a long line of Irish Catholic freaks, but like it's like a relatively new invention in America that the Catholics have gotten all weird and right wing on this sort of stuff. And you even get into like the video how like abortion and stuff like that wasn't even like a big issue in these circles for so long. So it seems like, yeah, you're tying it to this idea that people are resentful that they don't get to be the ones in charge and society doesn't directly reflect their values. And like something so then I found particularly insane, and I know in your video you used some clips from Joel Webbin. I might
Yeah.
be saying his name wrong, but I don't care, to be honest. But I went down the rabbit hole of that guy and the Doug guy he works with and the sort of like weird Moscow, Idaho contingent, and was pretty shocked by how seriously they will speak of themselves as oppressed and how much detail they'll use when talking about like how it's okay to be white, which I now know is like a dog whistle type thing.
It's not okay to be white, by the way. You should be ashamed of yourself and I don't know, just hate yourself every single day.
I once in a video made like a comment when we were filming about how I hated myself for being white, and our director kept it in, and I just got like flooded with a week for people being so mad at me that I hated my whiteness. So weird. But like it's almost shocking that these people are able to look at the society that we live in. And I think it's especially shocking that it's people from largely like rural white Christian areas of the country. It's not like it's people that are doing their work out of like diverse communities in major cities who are able to look around and earnestly convince themselves and others that their identity as a white Christian person is under attack. Like I find it like borderline shocking. So, I mean, I don't know how in all the insane stuff you've had to read and watch when looking at this, like how are they doing it? How are they convincing themselves and others that the white Christian identity group, especially the white male Christian identity group, is being oppressed?
I think a big part of it is because people are calling them out.
Mhm.
It's like when I say, oh God, men are awful, which I stand by. If you are offended by that, you are one of the men I'm talking about. If you are not offended by it, you are not one of the men I'm talking about, and I want to be friends with you. The fact that they're being called out and they don't just get a free pass to, sexually harass women or, use slurs or do hate crimes, it's restricted them. And it's not a restriction, it's being a good, normal person.
Yeah.
And But for them, it feels like a restriction. It feels like an attack. And so they see not being, all powerful, not having the government's thumbs up to commit hate crimes or to, use a slur at work or whatever. They see that as oppression because they completely misunderstand what actual oppression is. Actual oppression is not being able to use the same bathroom as white people. Actual oppression is not being paid the same wage as men. Actual oppression is having bomb threats called into a children's hospital, which I just moved to Chicago. I'm moving out of my DC apartment this week, so I'm packing everything
Oh,
up. That's why
no
my
shit.
backyard.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Kat. It's my favorite city in the world. I'm originally from there. So excited to
Oh
move to
wow.
Chicago. You know,
Yeah.
after this, I might have to shoot you some bar and restaurant
Would
recommendations because
love
it's
that.
best
Absolutely
city in
would love
America.
that.
Good for you. Sorry, keep going. We can talk about depressing stuff
No,
again,
but
but
like I passed by Lurie Children's Hospital
yeah.
like almost every day because I live around there, and it's so nice. I live in a big old skyscraper, so I can say roughly where I live and not even worry about being doxxed. Anyways,
Yes.
but I see it and I think about when Tucker Carlson, when I was monitoring him for a week, kept repeating Lurie Children's Hospital, kept showing the names of doctors and repeating the names of doctors, and they had to
Yeah.
evacuate the entire pediatric ward because libs of TikTok and Tucker Carlson kept saying that they were cutting off children's junk. And that's actual oppression. That's
Yeah.
being so scared to live your truth because you are afraid of children's hospitals being bombed. It's not being able to, or not being able to say the N word on Slack. That's not oppression. It's not being rejected on Tinder. That's not oppression. That's just you sucking as an individual. And once you realize that, you can be better. And those things won't really happen. People won't get mad at you as much because you're being a decent baseline human being, which I
Yeah.
encourage everyone to do.
It's nice. It's really fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
No, and even like thinking about the Chicago example, like my very random thing, but my wife's school in Chicago that she went to for her whole childhood, the principal there had to have armed security for a while because what's the O'Keefe group that does the secret
Project
videos?
Veritas.
Yes, a Project Veritas person went to a like education conference in Chicago where a sex educator in a casual sense talked about how like they talk about queerness and they talk about like anal sex and stuff like that because they do sex education that's not just heteronormative. And like it led to people saying they were going to drive into the city with guns and take the school down because they
Disgusting.
acknowledge the existence of like non-heterosexual, consensual sexual activity. So, which kind of like maybe leads into this then. And maybe the answer to this, and I feel like a lot of the stuff, I'm always hesitant to say that the answer is the simple answer that I think it is because I don't want things to be that terrible. But another thing that stood out a lot in a bunch of the watching these crazy people I did over the last couple months is like how obsessed they are with women and how they also hate them. There was this one thinker, and this is parallel
We also
to
think their virginity is our problem, which like it's not.
it's very wild.
Another reason to legalize sex work.
Yeah. But there's this guy, and this is not a Christian thinker, but have you and this is someone who was on Tucker Carlson at one point. Do you know Curtis Yarvin?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. See,
The
you know
advances
again.
inspo.
Yeah.
Behind
So
the Bastards did a great
yes,
2 or 3-parter on him with
two-parter.
Ed Helms, if anyone
Yeah.
is wondering who we're talking about.
Yes. And again, I know this for those who don't. I know that Kat, you spent years kind of just watching all the worst things on TV so that we didn't have to, including Tucker Carlson. So again, thank you for your service. Your brain will never recover, but we're glad you took one for the team. But with Curtis Yarvin, and for those who don't know, I'm sure many of you watching do, kind of like the self-styled, dark philosopher of the weird Silicon Valley right, who kind of puts all his work in this really archaic, vague philosophical language. But there was a moment in watching hours of him where in an interview, he starts talking about like hot chicks at parties. And it was this moment where it was like, oh yeah, that's the whole thing. Like the whole thing for you is that you're mad that women don't feel the way about you that you think that you deserve to have them feel. And the same thing with some of the, far right Christian dudes, like the way in which in reading more about like the Catholic integralist movement, like how quick they are to say, oh yeah, women should only vote if their husbands vote for them. And the way in which, of course, in like broader political senses, everyone is obsessed, or male Christian politicians are so obsessed with female sexuality and reproductive rights. Like, part of my brain wants to say, and this is very reductive, that a lot of this comes from a deep down resentment that these people aren't like cool anymore. That like it's not cool to be
Absolutely.
like a white conservative guy. And also, and this is very crass, so sorry for the offense, but also that they're bitter that like people don't want to fuck them.
Absolutely. Like I said, they think their virginity is our problem. And it's like
Yeah.
they've never been cool. That's a big thing that conservatives are mad about. Like
hmm
the Patriot Awards, I'm not sure if you've ever seen some of my stuff on that.
Oh no.
Um, Fox News, everyone was mad that they don't get, invited to the Emmys and the
Yeah, yeah.
Oscars, so they created the Patriot Awards. And it's a very stupid yearly awards show that usually has like 3 to 6 awards. One year there was Most Valuable Patriot, Patriot of the Year, and 2022 Patriotic Badass, which went to Pete Hegseth, who was hosting and wore a camo tuxedo, a tuxedo that was the American flag, another tuxedo that was also the American flag. It's bad. It's hosted by Golden Corral and um, I want to say Bass Pro Shop. I want to say Bass Pro. No, 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 no.
Oh.
Golden Corral and something. Oh, Camping World.
Yeah, I feel like Bass Pro Shop cares enough about making money to where even they wouldn't sponsor something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's they want to be cool so bad. It's why they
Yeah.
love hating on celebrities that support any, liberal cause when really it's just like basic human rights. And they're like, none of these celebrities will hang out with Donald Trump, but we have Kid Rock. And it's like, you are just mad that you can't have Taylor Swift endorsed. Like, Donald Trump would throw JD Vance under a literal bus if it meant Taylor Swift would tweet about him in just a neutral way one
For
time.
sure.
And so
Yeah.
they want to be cool. They want to be, fuckable. They want to do all these things. And really all you have to do to be any of those things is calm down. Calm down, be nice, be a little goofy. Women love that. And it's really that simple. But instead they've decided to package all their resentment into a ticking time bomb of sexual frustration and anger and are taking it out on everyone else instead of looking in the mirror and going, wow, everything is bad. If everyone is mad at me, maybe it's me. Maybe this is a me thing and not a
Yeah.
everyone else thing. But I was actually on a panel the other day with Ellie Reeve, who wrote the book Black Pill. She's with
Mhm.
CNN. And she's done a lot of work that, she's in disinformation, all of this stuff. She's an incredible reporter. And she was saying that one of her sources that she talks about in the book, which is very good, by the way, everyone should read it.
Mhm.
He was, this super far right Nazi, and he went to jail. And when he didn't have his constant stream of Nazi rhetoric online in all of his communities where he could be like angry online with all these other angry men, he was like, wow, maybe I should change how I live. Like maybe I should devote my life to something else. It took him going to jail to realize this. But once you're removed from that situation, you start realizing, wow, this is not a great way to spend my time.
Yeah. I mean, two things. One, digression from what you were saying before about the Patriot Awards and coolness and culture and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
we've a pet project we have here sometimes is like Daily Wire culture, and the way in which a lot of like, the fact that like almost everyone involved in the Daily Wire is like a failed actor or writer or someone who wanted to be like cool and good at entertainment and they weren't like good at it. And lots of talented people don't make it in Hollywood. It's a tough town. But the way in
But
which they've
Michael
now
Knowles isn't talented.
Michael, no, he's a legend in his field. Second only to Matt Walsh, the new king of satire, the Andy Kaufman of his age. But it is like wild that they feel this need to create their own counterculture and then convince themselves that it's good and cool. It's especially interesting in so much as, like living and working in Los Angeles, this city's like way more conservative than anyone wants to acknowledge, and way more people that work in entertainment and are successful are super conservative. Like if you look at voting maps, and what we can do this again in a couple weeks, friends. like if you look at the voting map of Los Angeles, like around Beverly Hills and the area where a lot of the famous people live, you're gonna see a bunch of red. Happens every time.
Can I just add something to the Daily Wire thing? That's just a fun
Yeah,
little
please
aside.
do.
So when I was at Media Matters, I would do these weekly recaps of, once again on my personal account, but still of what Fox News said that week, of what I was watching. And I try to do them now, but there's a lot of stuff happening and I only have so much time.
Yeah.
The first time I did it, this girl from the Daily Wire, who I still can't remember her name, was like, wow, it looks like she's copying someone, referring to herself, because apparently she did like a
Oh,
5 like liberal stories from the week.
it was like
And I
Brett
straight up was
Cooper.
like, I have no idea who this
Yeah,
is. And everyone else was like, did you copyright counting to 5? And it's just so funny
that rules.
how they were so desperate to like get some type of in. They were like, she is copying us by doing 5 things. No one has ever done this before except us at the Daily Wire, some girl who I've never heard of in my life, and I still don't know her name. I really want to apologize to her. I didn't realize that she
Thank you
had
for doing that.
dominion
That's
over the number
actually
5.
why we wanted to talk to you. That she's here right now. Can you come on?
This is a gotcha.
Yeah, no, but they are like that. Like we talked about Matt Walsh's masterpiece, Am I Racist, recently, and I think eventually I think it was our first time getting mentioned by the Daily Wire when Matt Walsh got a little mad at us or something. But it's like they don't like I made sure when we talked about that movie, we barely even talked about the politics. We just critiqued it on the basis of the history of satirical comedy and what it means to do political satire, who's good at it, how you go about it, and to be like bracketing your horrific and transphobic and racist politics, like it's just not a good satire.
Right. They're not
But
good
they're
at
so
comedy.
no, and they're so out of touch with it that they've just created their own counter thing, which also just made me think of like back to the oppression thing. Like all of those people that work there, most of them live in like Franklin, Tennessee, an affluent suburb of Nashville that's almost completely white and Christian. So again, the idea that any of them act like in their daily lives they're even encountering people of color or trans people is wild because they just project this sort of boogeyman thing onto the world around them. God, that was a digression. There was something else you said I was going to follow up on as well. Let's see if I can get back there, unless you just have a thing you want to talk about because you said you had so many thoughts.
I have so many thoughts on so many things. For example, Forrest Gump is not a good movie, and I love to talk about how much I hate Forrest Gump.
Horrible movie. Horrible. Well, okay, how about this? Speaking of movies then, a thing I do think of with the culture thing is, and this overlaps with movies and your new hometown. Legendary Chicago film critic Roger Ebert once said this line, you might have heard this before, that movies are machines for the making of empathy. The idea being that like what good popular culture doesn't constrict our humanity and constrict like who we think counts as people. It should expand those things and like challenge us and open us up to thinking about other people and like and in his career, like Roger Ebert did a great job of fleshing this out and supporting a lot of underground filmmakers of color, female filmmakers, yada yada. Sorry, it's just a legend in that town. But I think about that quote whenever I look at the art and culture these people are creating, and when you look at the art and culture they're so offended by, and it seems to be the case. And then, like whenever I've made myself watch like far right Christian cartoons for kids, because I'm an adult man and why not? The thing they seem to be the most mad at is media that implies that other people are human too, and that people that aren't like you have a fundamental goodness, are privy to human rights, deserve to be listened to and heard. And even, I have a very young daughter, and in like normal kids books, like the theme of so many of them is just like, hey, don't be a dick. Other people are cool too. And that's like a commonality in media. Yet all the stuff these people make seems to be about constricting who counts and then demonizing anyone outside of that bubble.
For sure. I mean, it's supposed to silo these, like I said, the guy that went to jail. Like, it's the way that this works is mis and disinformation, because that panel that I was on was about media literacy. And I said that media literacy is not a political issue, but it's become one because the American far right is so much farther right than we like to think.
Mhm.
And it relies on mis and disinformation to continue. It needs to mislead people so that way they'll believe whatever they're told. But one of the big things is like the main way to change minds is generate empathy. And I mean, I've talked about this a lot. I grew up in Texas. I grew up conservative. I grew up in an affluent part of Dallas, not the suburbs, Dallas. I just want to make that very clear. It matters to no one except anyone who's
Well,
watching from Dallas.
Producer Henry, who's on with us, is a Texan as well, who's live in Texas right now. So we have two
Okay,
Texans.
cool. Yeah. I'm not from fucking Frisco or Grapevine, but I grew up conservative, and not in like a crazy QAnon way, but like in a, Ronald Reagan was the best guy in the world type of way.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of things that I was like, oh yeah, I mean, Martin Luther King, all this stuff. I was taught that those were good things, but I fully believed the bootstrap myth. I was like, why don't poor people just save their money? All this stuff growing up. And then we moved to Tucson, Arizona. And if you haven't been to Dallas, it's extremely segregated by both race and income. And my parents, this is no fault of theirs. They put me in private schools. They put me in, sorry, I'm switching my headphones again, putting me in private, like religious schools, but it was great education. So I was never really around poor people. And like, I didn't realize the reality of what it's like to be a poor person. And then I moved to Tucson, Arizona, which even though I went to one of the only private schools in the area, it was, to them, it seemed like anyone there was like super rich. But in comparison to Dallas, that would have been like the charity private school. Like I'm trying to say this in like the very real sense, like not in a, oh, let's like be conceited or brag or anything. It's just true.
Be real about it, yeah.
And, I actually had some people that read one of my profiles from my high school that were like, there were no, poor people in our school, but about 70% of that school, I think was the number, it might have been 60, was on financial aid, and people just didn't want to talk about it for obvious reasons. And I saw so many of my brilliant friends who just couldn't go to college, or they could only go to University of Arizona. I think like 85% of my class went to U of A, which was in Tucson, and like 90 total stayed in Arizona. And it was heartbreaking seeing like all of these people that I knew that were smarter than me, or, had these incredible talents that they couldn't develop like I could because my parents were able to save to help me with college. And just being exposed to that totally changed my worldview. And also in Tucson, it's, a big Latino community. So like I had known, people in Catholic schools, obviously, but I was exposed to all of these races and ethnicities and cultures and income groups that I had never really been ingrained with, that I had never really met and saw as not necessarily human, but just as like a lived experience. I thought that I knew better because it was what I had been told. A lot of people that grow up conservative, they're told, you're the responsible party. You're trying to be responsible with finances, with values, all this stuff. And it just shattered my worldview. It's the same thing with like trans people. One of the best ways to fight transphobic bigotry is just someone meeting a normal trans person and they're like, oh, okay, you're a person. And so these groups try to generate fear among normal conservative people who might not think that way if they had been exposed to these ideas in general. I mean, when I meet someone in public that thinks that way, I am very good at talking with them like a normal person, because I mean, they are. There is a point in bigotry where that's on you, but a lot of these people, you can't fix ignorance by telling someone to know better, because ignorance means you don't know it. You don't know what to look for. You don't know what to read for. That's why I honestly made this video, because I've gotten a lot of response from people that were like, I didn't know how bad this problem was. Like I'm a, conservative person with like a small C, or I wasn't planning on voting for Trump, and a couple Trump or now former Trump voters that have reached out to me, because it's just trying to widen that, trying to show that empathy and provide information in a time where it's really hard to know what's true. Like if you watch my video, it's very meticulously, all my sources are very meticulously cited, and that's for a reason. And so I always want to just stress to people, especially on the left, you don't need to be buddy with Liz Cheney to win an election, but when it's coming one-on-one, when you're punching up to the people that spread this shit, not just a random person that, I mean, if they're incredibly hateful and like saying racial slurs at a restaurant worker, fair game. But when it's coming to average people, they just might not know. I think that's really important to remember.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, even like sometimes it feels more immediate, let's say, to get mad at the the one person you know in your life who thinks this stuff, or people you deal with online, and then ignore the fact that there's very concrete structural reasons for this stuff, and there are people who are benefiting immensely and who are gaining power from this sort of stuff. As you know, I imagine better than I do. Like, a lot of the politicians who are benefiting off this stuff now didn't say this shit 10 years ago, or didn't seem to care about this at any other point in their
Or not as
career.
many, at least.
Yeah, not as many, but now that it gives them like access to power, now that they've seen that they could sort of like weaponize that base of people, well then like giddy up, let's go.
And I mean, think
Um,
about it. If you are, a white person in a suburb of, like, let's say Arkansas or Ohio or whatever. And once again, there's a level of bigotry where it's like, that's on you. But there are a lot of, like, quote unquote normal Trump supporters that
mhm.
probably, once again, would not vote for him if they knew otherwise. So think about it. If you are living in a suburb, you have 3 kids, you love them to death. I mean, we all love our family, we love our kids. Um, and someone's telling you, hey, someone wants to hurt your children. Not the LGBTQ stuff. That's fucking
Mhm.
ridiculous. Honestly, if you're hearing that people are chopping off child's junk, that's on you for believing that. But if you're, a victim of a hurricane, you want to have someone to blame. That's so random and scary, especially in the face of climate change. It is no wonder that misinformation skyrocketed after Helene, because what what the hell else are you going to say if you are scared and lonely and angry and you've lost your home and you've lost your friends? You want someone to blame, and someone saying, "Hey, I have someone for you to blame. I have someone for you to blame, and there's a reason this happened. It's not just random chance and a consequence of greed from people who are much, much richer than you. I have an answer for you." It makes sense that you would want to believe that if you don't know anything else.
Yeah. And like my background's, I used to be like an academic that taught philosophy and psychoanalysis and stuff like that. And you see this thing in some philosophical theories and like theories of psychoanalytic development, that there's a stage where our ego struggles to deal with like bad shit happening, or like with instability, with anxiety, with not knowing what's going to happen in the future. And there's this impulse to like project that onto the other and sort of construct a figure that we can put our like anxiety, our hatred, our worries onto. And even in one of
Hitler did.
yeah. Yeah, and there's like, there's some Freud talked about at one point how like all civilizations work because they pick some group and they're like, but they're not us. And they can sort of operate that way. And it does seem like if you look at, economic insecurity, anxiety about climate change, growing consumer debts, how hard it is to buy a house, the failing education system, all this sort of stuff, it seems like conditions are, in one sense, conditions are right for people to interrogate what's going on in the world, why it's going the way it is, and learning more about it. But in another sense, like you said, with like the Helene stuff, it seems easier than ever to just say to people like, I get it, you feel bad and you're scared, which is real, which is like a valid way to feel, but then giving people the easiest out for that. And I guess like to
Right.
even connect that back to your empathy point, I think that's an area where we can like be empathetic for the conditions of the anxiety, be empathetic for why people in America, especially, might not be feeling great, and not yell at them for feeling bad, and acknowledge that the feelings that maybe led someone a bad place is real. That maybe they didn't wake up that morning and just say, like, hello, I'm racist, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely, like, there's nuance here and different parts of this that we can, be like, that's not. I mean, I might get a lot of hate for this, but the male loneliness epidemic,
Hmm.
if you as a male are not doing anything about that, it is not my problem. You know what I mean? It's you can't want to take my rights away and expect me to fix your problems. Um, but when it comes to, just feeling so insecure about your life, about what your children's future will look like, and, especially after so many shitty things have happened, and when you're exposed to this vortex of mis and disinformation, it's not okay, but it
Hmm.
explains a lot of why people feel the way they do. And I think that trying to, especially in one-on-one conversations, for example, I met a man from Pennsylvania, from rural Pennsylvania, who was in Chicago at a bar. I'm too talkative for my own good, so I was just like, "Hey, how are you guys doing?" Blah blah blah. We started talking. We shared a couple of drinks. Him and his wife, who were very, very kind people, and his wife was definitely more liberal. But he was like, "Oh, you're from Texas. How do you like that?" And I was like, "Well, frankly, I don't. Texas sucks. Anyone that's from Texas can usually vouch for that unless you're like some Silicon Valley type dude." And like one of the things is if I wanted to start a family, I know I can't visit my own family for at least 9 months. I'd be too scared to do it because if something happened, I would be scared I would die, or they would be, sued for $10,000, or the doctor would go to jail for 99 years. And when I said, like, when I started mentioning it, you could see him kind of turn off. But then once I finished that sentiment in just a very genuine way of like, no matter where you stand, I am just scared of visiting my family. I'm, 25. I could be starting a family in like maybe 5 years. I don't know. It was like he really thought about it. And I could see it in his head. And it was just like, oh, that's a reality that every woman in Texas is facing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, any story that makes just normie dudes at a bar in Chicago look not terrible, I'm going to support. Also, as a talkative person, you're going to have so much fun in Chicago. What a great city to talk to strangers at bars. But speaking of strangers and bars and something that has nothing to do with either of those, a part of your video that I really, again, enjoyed and that I learned stuff, not that I enjoyed the reality of the things communicated. I was on education, and education is something over here we think about and care about a lot. So can you maybe say a little bit about how the sort of, white Christian nationalist agenda ties into a lot of stuff that's happening with education right now in America? And much of this, of course, applies to the election quite a bit.
Yeah, so I actually put this, my big tenets were authoritarianism, violence, education, women, LGBTQ people, and, religious discrimination. And I put education right after the authoritarianism and violence part because it kind of affects everything else. Every authoritarian movement has tried to gain control of the education system because you have a lot better luck trying to, mold young minds than change older ones. So it's a twofold thing. First off, they're trying to change the education system right now by, Ron DeSantis's bills of taking out sex education, but don't say gay law, even though it's lifted a little bit, but not really. Stopping AP African American history from being taught there. These are things they accuse liberals of using the education system as a way to indoctrinate kids. But like I said before, if you just learn things, if you are interacting with people, it's the same reason that people become liberal when they go to college, because they're seeing new people and new ideas. If you learn things, you are more likely to be more open-minded, and knowing more makes you question more. And authoritarians do not like that. So that's the first thing, is they're trying to put, PragerU in schools. Oklahoma has insisted that every school needs to have Bibles in the classroom. They're trying to pay $6 million to buy a bunch of Trump edition Bibles. So that's what they're doing right now. But ideally, they want to get rid of public schools. You've heard so much about getting rid of the Department of Education. That's a big part of Project 2025. And that's not a new idea. People on Fox have been saying that forever. People on the right have been saying that forever. So what they're doing right now is trying to enact this vision before they can officially get rid of the Department of Education. And that's through the use of charter schools and school vouchers, what a lot of people call school choice. It sounds like a good idea. Like, you want, maybe your public school isn't as well funded as it should be. You want the best future for your child. Let's let the government, give us some money so we can send them to this other school that has a very specific curriculum or has, more funding. But in reality, it takes money away from public schools. And you can also, charter schools aren't subjected to the same regulations and requirements as average public schools. There are tons of uncertified teachers. So many charter schools have been accused and found guilty of financial crimes and money laundering. These are hotbeds for abuse of children and of their education. A Supreme Court decision recently ruled, essentially, they opened the door to the idea of taxpayer-funded religious charter schools. School vouchers are similar to charter schools. It's essentially, instead of we're giving the money directly to the school, we're giving you money so that way you can send your kid to a private school or to a school like this. These school vouchers can be used pretty much anywhere. So while the Oklahoma Supreme Court decided that the religious taxpayer-funded charter school is not constitutional, you can still get a school voucher to send your kid there. This is all rooted in white Christian academies. And if you don't know what those are, segregation is basically the entire impetus for the culture war. I talk about this a lot in my video. White evangelicals were mad about desegregating schools, so they started focusing their effort into education and abortion. They did not care about abortion before desegregation and before the federal government said you can't have these schools. What they did with these white Christian academies is, instead of desegregating their schools or letting their kids go to desegregated schools, they put these kids in private schools that were still getting government money, and they were Christian academies. And these kids, you could reject certain students and accept others, pretty much always on the basis of race. These were so popular and so well funded in comparison to desegregated public schools that in many places the schools closed altogether. For example, in Prince George County in Virginia, instead of obeying desegregation, they just closed their public schools, and they didn't have any solution for the Black kids there. So some Black kids went to, a school district over, which was not easy back then. Some just didn't have an education for a year or two. And so now we're seeing this happen again with charter schools and school vouchers in the name of, anti-liberalism or whatever. These charter schools, once again, aren't regulated. And at one school in Arizona, the school voucher program was sent to this unregulated school that was a part of a megachurch. So much money was sent there. So many kids were sent there instead that the public schools around it had to close down. This is like 60 years after these white Christian academies, which the same thing happened there until the government said, well, you can either keep your tax exempt status or your segregationist policies, but not both. This is fucking scary. And I get the appeal of charter schools, but they aren't what you think they are. There are some good ones. There are some good ones that have, certified teachers that put a lot of effort, but those are probably in affluent areas where the people around it have the time and resources to make sure that they are properly, staffed and properly funded. But once again, that funding is being taken away from public schools. The answer is not to take money from public schools. It's to put money back in there. I mean, we've spent billions, tens of billions of dollars, like 24 billion at least, on Gaza, bombing it. We could put that money into our public schools. So it's really fucking scary. And Project 2025, one of the first things that they plan to do if Trump gets back into power, I'm saying as a individual not associated with my partner in this video, is get rid of the Department of Education. And that's not a good idea. And getting rid of public schools, also not a good idea. You will have parts of the country that are very well educated, usually white areas, where people are being, funded by mega churches and people that have more money. And then you will have Black and brown people who are not getting the education they deserve.
Yeah. I mean, one thing.
Sorry, it just pisses me off so much.
No, it should. If you were like, it doesn't piss me off, I'd be like, you okay? But some
I just think sorry, just one thing. It's just I just think of how many people have died and changed their whole lives so their kids can get an education. I mean, my dad is an immigrant, and in the Palestinian community, it's in Gaza and in the West Bank, it's one of the most educated parts of the world per capita, which a lot of people don't know. It has one of the highest rates of PhDs per capita, and that's across genders, despite what many people will say. And so that was always a really big thing for my parents. It's like, you need an education. And my mom, is American, but she was completely on board with that, or was, white American, born and raised here. And I think about people who have had, so much security in India or China or things like that, where they are like, you know what? I want to make sure that my kids, especially my daughters, can get an education. And so they move across the world to go here, where you have a public education system, where your child, no matter their gender, no matter their race, should be able to get an education. And now these assholes are trying to take it away from you. Yeah. And trying to convince you that you don't need it.
I mean, two quick digression points and then a question for you. Yeah, I mean, and of course, thinking about the money spent bombing Gaza is also like spending money we could spend on education, bombing schools and universities in Gaza, thus such that there's almost no educational infrastructure left, which again, weird thematic we have here historically and politically, where certain people try to target the education system and the children in a place. Could get mad and yell about
That's
that for a
called
while.
genocide.
That's the word that one could use here. Um, and then thinking about, like, domestically, and you get into some of this in your video, this stuff I've gotten angry at before. The way in which some of the educational power that's being wielded too, like you said, put Trump Bibles in the classroom and let that weird Oklahoma guy do stuff. Putting what's her face from Libs of TikTok on a board there. Having someone like Chris Rufo on a university board at the new school in Florida. Like, all of these, political positionings of people that have no formal background in education in any real way, getting to make those decisions. And that's something I feel like is really like flying under the radar in a more mainstream way. A question I have for you is, how do these people, and whether, and I think of like someone like DeSantis here, but this could be applied broadly. How do they square the circle of free speech, free speech, free speech? The woke people don't want you to have free speech. The libs don't want you to have free speech. We want there to be freedom. Elon Musk, freedom, freedom, freedom. How do they square that with this desire to so radically control what is taught and how it is taught, such that they are, banning books that have long been considered parts of the canon, not teaching parts of history that are not contentious, that are grounded in historical fact. I don't know, in any of your listening to these people, have you seen anyone try to square those two things?
I mean, they don't need to. They don't have to. It's all
Because no
cognitive
one,
dissonance.
yeah, so no one internal to those communities is asking those questions or worried about that. For them, it's sort of like free speech is the freedom to say the stuff they want to say.
Right. And if they have to, like if they are put under pressure or maybe have like a glimmer where they're like, well, I should justify this, it would be, well, the threat of liberal control is so dire that we have to do whatever we can. And I mean, that's also the idea between, the paradox of not tolerating intolerance, like tolerance for all except the intolerant. But I think that is rooted in a moral imperative that helps people rather than a sociopathic desire that helps you.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, and I'll if we'll try to wrap up soon. Don't want to take advantage of your time.
I am just embroidering and packing stuff up. So,
Oh, well, in that case,
yeah.
well, what do you think of this then? Like, how much do you see this agenda? You referenced Project 2025 previously in this conversation, but like, how much do you think this sort of agenda will be fueled, facilitated, enacted if the two guys win the thing in a couple weeks?
I mean, I mentioned this in the video, but this is not the first Project 2025. The Heritage Foundation makes one of these every single election cycle. They have since 1981. The one that they made for 2016, and once again, saying this in a personal capacity, not associated with my partner in this video, the People for the American Way Foundation, just me, Cataboo, random girl that's packing up her apartment. The one that they made in 2016, hoping for a Trump presidency, in the first year of his time as president, first year of the administration, they enacted 64% of those recommendations of what is essentially Project 2016. If just 64% of Project 2025 is enacted in a first year of a new Trump administration, things are going to get very scary, even scarier than they already are. 64%. There are 900 pages of Project 2025.
Yeah. And then would it be fair to say that because of some of what was enacted, post 2016, conditions are now even easier? Like, there's less mechanisms of resistance to make some of this stuff happen.
Right. And they realized, oh, well, we played it a little safe then. We need to make this one count.
Yeah.
I think they realized how the possibilities that there are, if you just don't give a fuck about what's right or what's technically permitted under the law. And they realized that, and they said, if we want to stay in power and we want to enact our agenda, we just need to go batshit crazy with this stuff.
Yeah. That's great stuff. Another question, and I feel like the answer to this might be similar to something I asked you a second ago. Have you seen anyone try to make sense, whether on the religious, the political side, of the seeming inconsistency of a political agenda that is tied to Christianity, the inconsistency of that agenda with pretty significant elements of Christianity and Christian theology? Because I think that's something that we talk about a lot. And actually on our show last week, we had this really great YouTube essayist, CJ the X, join us, and we talked about Christianity and politics and all sort of stuff. And it's something that I think, whether one is like a Christian in a cool way or just a person who knows that tradition a little bit, there is this sense of just like, but how do you not know? How do you justify this stuff when a quick Google search reveals that so much of the New Testament is about serving the poor and, giving a preferential option to the oppressed?
Washing your buddy's feet.
Yeah. And of course, too, like Christ himself lowering himself to serve like sex workers, not judging those people. Also the fact that he was sort of like an itinerant Middle Eastern guy. But in diving into that world, does anyone try to acknowledge that, or is it another thing where they're just kind of like, nope, we read it this way and that's the way?
Yeah, so they pretend that they believe in all the peaceful stuff. But like I mentioned this in my video, and also for anyone that's interested, the book Jesus and John Wayne, which is about the remasculinization of Christianity, is fascinating. And it goes basically, for the last century, the far right has been trying to masculinize Jesus because they were like, wow, he's a soy boy. I mentioned there's this quote from evangelical pastor Mark Driscoll where he called Jesus a neutered, limp-wristed sky fairy.
Yeah.
And they needed to make him, more badass. And so what they've done is make this alternative Jesus who is a warrior who wants to, own the libs and also murder them. And that's just not true. It's just not true. I mean, there's a part of, I believe it's the Sermon on the Mount it's one of his parables where he's talking about, the people that don't have empathy for those who were sick and in prison are not going into heaven. And it's like, you want to imprison so many people. And so Jesus is whatever you want him to be to these people. And it's really that simple.
Yeah. Very deeply upsetting. Yeah, the Mark Driscoll stuff, that was so fun that you included that. As someone who in my much younger years like flirted with elements of evangelicalism back when there was still like hippie evangelicalism before it turned hard. There's like a thing at my college that was called Students for Social Justice that was like a Christian-y organization, and for that organization, what it meant to serve Christ was to like go serve the poor and the unhoused community and work with migrants and all sort of stuff that was just like, it's not hard to see the connection between scriptural stuff and that. But I remember at that time, even some people were like, "Have you heard of this Mark Driscoll guy?" Because there was a point where he almost marketed himself as like the cool, like Gen X, I wear jeans pastor. And then quickly turned into like, Christ is an MMA fighter that would chokehold you liberal pussies all day type vibe, which is just wild. And it's also why there's such a big like crossover with like the evangelical community and like mixed martial arts and all these hyper masculine survivalist
weird
sort of worlds. Yeah.
I mean, like I say it a bunch in my video, but I just want to be very clear. Like there are obviously problems with organized religion, all this stuff, but like Christianity is not the issue here. I have a background in it. I went to Christian schools. My parents didn't force any faith on me, but like I, on my own as a kid, found so much comfort in it to the point where like I went to church. Like I asked my parents to take me to church. And in my video, there's a clip of me doing a Christian rap in front of my whole school with our priest at school. So check that out.
I will say, folks, if you still have not watched Kat's video and you're like on the fence,
it's a banger.
Rewind 10 seconds. Christian rap from Kat in the video. That's worth
Christian rap from 13-year-old me, and it's very real. I'm up by with the priest in front of the entire congregation. But like one of my friends right now, like one of my very best closest friends, she is a devout Christian, and in the most Christian sense possible. She has multiple kids, and they are all the same way. They love everyone. They reach out to everything with empathy. Her husband is the exact same way, and it's just like I look at people like that, and I remember how important faith is to a lot of people. Once again, I've gotten so much flack from militant atheists that are like, religion is always bad. And I get where you're coming from, but for a lot of people, if you have never been religious or loved someone who is religious in that way, just in the same way, if you've never been conservative or loved someone who is conservative, you might not understand the comfort or the ideology behind it, that it gives a lot of people a sense of purpose. It gives a lot of people a sense of direction, a sense of community. It spurs people to help others that they might not have done otherwise. And I think that's beautiful. As long as it's, if you are living by the word of Christ, truly living by it, I think that's fantastic.
Well, and I think it gives people an important tool as well. And, to touch back on like the empathy thing and speaking to people who might be tempted to fall for some of this stuff, having those conversations doesn't entail, you telling someone to reject their faith as a whole. If anything, there's a way to make the argument that like, actually, you could be even more all in as a Christian, but here's what that might entail, or here's a bazillion examples of really smart, interesting Christian people and how they've lived out their faith over the years. And I do think, we've seen that combating stuff like this with like, only atheists are smart and you're an idiot, that just doesn't make sense. And a lot of the people from the new atheist movement have become fascist as well. So like,
Yeah. I mean, that same guy I was talking about from Pennsylvania that I talked to at that bar, we eventually got on the topic. I was in the middle of writing my 36-page script for this video. And as soon as I started talking about that, he lit up because he was like talking to, a liberal or progressive person who was like, I wasn't like, your faith is stupid and every Christian is stupid. I was like, no, it's not what they teach. And he's like, it's not. And I have a huge problem with this. And it was so fascinating being able to, and lovely to be able to engage with someone like that, especially this close to the election, that might have felt discounted or felt, isolated from more Christ-like views because it's been demonized so much. And this is not to say that, white Christians are an oppressed class. I'm just saying religion is not necessarily the issue if you are actually living by the values of love and unity and, practicing what you preach.
Yeah. Well, this maybe ties into what you're saying now then. So after, the deep dive you took to make this video, what left you feeling not as scared or freaked out? Where are there areas where people can look at what's happening right now and maybe not feel, hopeless?
I get this question a lot. And even if the worst happens and we get 64% of Project 2025, which, knock on wood, I'm hoping to God doesn't happen. They would not need this propaganda if their agenda was working. They would not need to spread this much misinformation if their agenda was working. They would not need to lose their fucking mind at every one of my videos and threaten to like kill and rape me if they weren't scared. And they are scared. I mean, that's the basis of this entire movement. But they're also scared because the average person thinks all of this shit is insane. And that brings me a lot of comfort, knowing how terrified they are of people speaking the truth and knowing how terrified they are of, dumb streamers like you and me. And no offense, but like we're dumb streamers. And
it's gonna be a real job. This is horrible.
Yeah, you need to fucking, I don't know, make furniture.
Totally.
And how scared they are of just TikTok in general.
Yeah.
It is their worst fear come alive, and that's that more people can be exposed to what the truth is and fewer people can believe their ideology. And that gives me hope in a weird, strange way.
We love it. Here, I'm just really quick dropping links to that video in the chat right now, folks. Don't go watch it now. Watch the rest of this and then
watch the rest of the stream.
You have tabs. You can open up, guys. You're not idiots. And it's in the description as well.
You're not idiots like us.
No, we're idiots. We should be at the furniture factory making chairs.
I need to
Um,
breathe in fumes that make me lose brain cells.
oh, that would be so great. That would feel so good. I'm gonna can I ask you a question about aspects of your work that doesn't relate to that video?
Would love it.
Okay, so something that I found, and I think you're working this recently, and found very helpful, is sort of about this tension, and I'm sure some of you have seen your videos or seen your work on this, that people are feeling right now at the election of, hey, there's genocide happening, that feels bad, I don't like it. And then people who are also like, but all the stuff that someone like Kat talks about in the video on Christian nationalism, I don't want that stuff to happen either. Um, and you see a lot of people, and I think especially in the past week or so, a lot of essays and think pieces on how people are navigating that sort of tension. I know I really found, I think it was your video from a couple weeks ago, how Kamala Harris can win, which your strategy was like talk to an Arab person for 15
Just
minutes.
one.
Just the one. And I know that, like, yes, I think it was yesterday where they kicked Arab American politician out of an event in Michigan, and then afterwards we're like, "Oops, our bad. We didn't mean to." Great strategy, but I don't know. I wonder if you can speak to that a bit, because I know at least in my like life and social circles, which are largely made up of hardcore left to like center left people. I know folks who I think are very smart and good people who are like, I cannot in good conscience vote for this person, and that person being Harris in this case. I know people who are very smart, thoughtful, kind people who are like, it is our absolute moral duty to, because even if we don't love what Harris and Uncle Tim are offering us, the alternative is way worse. I was reading an essay by a writer like this morning, and they were writing from the position of someone voting in Pennsylvania about this. Wondering if you have thoughts for us
Yeah.
on this sort of thing, and if you don't mind me saying as well, as a Palestinian American as well, would love to hear some takes on this if you got them, or not takes. Sorry, I'm trying to stop using the word
Give me
take. It's
hot
bad word.
takes. Yeah. No,
Thoughts.
I
No, we
mean,
don't want takes. We don't want clicks. We don't want views. We want human conversations, and if you happen to watch them, whatever. Go
I
ahead.
mean, I I have no desire to lecture people on this and to tell them
Yeah.
how to vote, especially other Arab Americans. I can't, like, in good conscience, look at someone whose entire family has been annihilated and be like, "You need to vote this way." And I get it. I'm not going to go through we all know what Harris has been doing and how much she has fumbled this bag. I don't need to dissect that.
No.
For me, though, I am voting for Harris, and
Mhm.
it's not because I'm psyched about this, and it's not because I think she's some messiah for Palestinian rights. I think that she has um, squandered all the goodwill that she had by having, the only person in the Biden administration to express empathy on this issue.
Mhm.
There's a part of me that's hoping she's trying to pull a Jimmy Carter and like sandbag this shit and then go the other way, but that hope is not big. Um, I am voting for her because I don't want to fight a two-front battle. I don't want to watch my trans friends not have any access to HRT. I don't want to have my, menstrual cycle, monitored by the HHS. I don't want to have our schools dismantled. I don't want to fight against all of that stuff and have to fight for human rights in Gaza. And it is on our politicians. And I think that's one thing that Democrats just like really, they like to guilt you into being like, you have to vote for us because we're the less
Yeah.
bad option. And it's on them to win our vote. And we have lost that in America of like, you should win our vote. We are your constituents. So it's on no one besides Harris if she loses this election. But I myself, and I'm not telling anyone how to vote or what they should do, but I myself do not want to fight two fronts. And that's what will happen if Donald Trump wins.
Yeah. No, and seriously, thank you for sharing that. Like, and I think, and again, we don't really, we're not in the business here of advocating, telling you what to do. We want people to think through stuff, and we want to give people the tools to think about stuff. So I think sharing that is really important. And I do think as well, like, this is me editorializing a little bit, friends that are watching, but I don't think it's very constructive to like hate on people on our own team right now for what they're doing in this election. I think there's better things to focus on there.
I think there's plenty of like, I think that the idea that you shouldn't criticize people in the Democratic Party is ridiculous.
Mhm.
But like, for people who are wrestling with this decision, I have fucking wrestled with it. I mean, I was one of, like the dozen and a half people that were sleeping outside the DNC the night before it ended. Like, this is not an easy decision, but it is the one I have made. And I know that if she loses, we as in Arab Americans and, I'm not Muslim, but Muslim Americans or just Muslims and anti-war voters will be blamed. And that fucking sucks when it should be on the person that didn't listen to all of the polling, didn't listen to everyone in her party that said otherwise. I mean, I have had direct conversations with the Harris campaign. I had a super PAC reach out to me like 2 weeks ago. I said in that video, being like, can you run a, outreach campaign in Michigan and Wisconsin, Minnesota to like try to convince people? And it's like, I said I would if I got 15 minutes in a room with her to talk on camera. And I said I'd do it. I said for free. I would do it for free. I would devote all my time. I would drop everything. And that wasn't possible. So
yeah, that's tough. And,
that's on her.
And just for folks listening, watching too, I definitely my comment about like criticizing folks is more like our friends and what they want to do voting wise. I think it's important to remember that, like, especially when you vote for a party, you have bought yourself the right to criticize the shit out of them. Because kids, we're supposed to live in a democracy, which means we're supposed to demand things from the people who represent us, which means that if we just sort of fall in line, we're doing the weird sort of right-wing thing where we just let,
Exactly.
authoritarian daddy
The
and
shit
mommy
I got for saying Joe Biden should step down the night after or the day after the debate, I was like, you guys sound like Trump voters.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have time for me to ask you about one more thing?
I do.
Okay, cool. So here's another thing. This is like vaguely related to stuff that I know you've talked about and probably think about. I'll frame a thing that I'm thinking about, wondering about. You might have thoughts on. I'm starting to get confused about like what's up with young people and dudes in particular on the internet. The way in which it feels like there's this drive on all sides towards, I guess, like a strong identitarianism. Like everyone wants to be on a team, and if you're not on their team, they hate you. And especially, again, I know this happens across the board, but in particular, young men are so drawn to like, I want to be on a team that has a loud guy that's the leader of the team, and that's happening like across the political spectrum. And I think some of this does, and you made a comment on this before, maybe tap into like the loneliness epidemic. Some of it might tap into social fragmentation and isolation, but I think it's become increasingly hard to kind of, and we come at this like a level removed from you of a lot of stuff we've done recently that talks about the political situation as more just like education focused, more on here's the history of these political philosophies and ideologies, here's maybe what's happening we're not thinking of. But that is a thing that I'm seeing as, I don't want to say like a dead end, but a really confusing thing to think about and think through. And I'm wondering, as not to be ageist here, but as a younger person who's like tied into that generation, like if you see this, if you see ways around it, if you have thoughts on why it's gotten like this, I'm just curious.
I think I'm older Gen Z, and like I graduated in May 2020. And so like I didn't have to deal with any school online. I mean, I did for like 2 months, but all of my professors were like, you don't have to take an exam, you're a senior, fuck it. I think like just being so siloed from everything really, really fucked up a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And that desire for a team, it's like, that idea of a zero-sum game of being like, well, they're getting right, so blah, blah, blah. And you're seeing so much representation of LGBTQ people, of Black people, of Asian people, of Latino people. And it's like, well, why don't I get representation? Without realizing that you're represented constantly, because it's not getting its own week or whatever. I really don't know what to do about it, because it's one of those things I see a lot of. I'm going to sound like such a bitch, but that's fine. I see a lot of complaints of men about shit like this, and it's like, stop being a baby. And like there are things that there is absolute empathy. I mean, I have empathy for the idea of like you feel like you can't, relate to other people or be intimate with other people because of toxic masculinity. But if you are making that about, well, women that did that, I don't have any sympathy. But like I absolutely do if you're like, we should focus on like what society tells us is, masculine or whatever. Absolutely. Totally with you. I mean, I have been saying this for a bit, but I think if you really want to get people off of Trump that are this age, you really need to tell them that Trump's going to ban porn.
That is that's the most shocking thing, that the generation that is just really like, has their gooning punch cards and it's like a lifestyle for them. Is
like not
behind
just
in many
ban
ways a
porn,
party.
but
Yeah.
arrest anyone who distributes or watches it.
Yeah. Very,
So,
very, very, very wild. Yeah, and sort of, it's so weird too, like, because we just know statistically. Thank you, Pornhub, for putting out demographic stats every year. But we know statistically the same generation that seems to like consume videos and podcasts where like weird gym dudes just slut shame constantly are the same ones who are like spending a third of their income on OnlyFans and like watching.
I mean,
this
there are
all the
states
time.
where you can't watch porn. I mean, in DC, because Virginia has insane laws, if you go on Pornhub.com, you'll get a pop-up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Isn't that insane? And so it's like,
Yeah.
these people are weird freaks that are obsessed with your personal life. And
Mhm.
for the most part, that doesn't really affect men because y'all don't have to, or at least, cis het men.
Mhm.
But that's the thing that affects y'all. And also this weird banning video game stuff. I'm just saying, I'm not saying they should, but if the Democratic Party wanted to take out a shit ton of ads on Pornhub and browsers and about this and just push those until the election day, it wouldn't be a bad idea.
I just had like
Someone hire me to run a presidential campaign.
I had the image of a young man waiting to load up a porn video, and then it's just like, hey, it's me, Tim Walz, and he's like working on his car, changing the oil, talking to you about voting right before you can. And I could see the end of the video with him being like, okay, I'll let you get after it, sport. So someone should do that. They still have 2 weeks. And yeah, then I guess I wonder with that, then it's sort of that almost, so we've talked, throughout this conversation about the role of empathy, the role of connecting to people as people and not just associating a human being with an ideology that they might be a part of. But yeah, I struggle with where we can find space to do that, like digitally, because like you said, like talking to the guy, and I've had these experiences too, where I talk to a guy at a bar or something who, if we interacted online, might just hate each other. But when you sit down, look at someone's eyes, hear what they're going through, it's way easier to connect. And again, you didn't promise yourself as the Gen Z internet fixer of all things. But if you thought at all or had any experiences where you can see like spaces for empathy and the sort of stuff we do of like making things that people watch online?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've had so many people reach out and be like, you radicalized me. Like I was watching.
Oh yeah.
A couple of them were literal Nazis who were like, I was jacking off to your videos and like the message penetrated, no pun intended.
Sorry for
But I've also
Wow. I want Nazis to jack off to me. Nazis. Come on. Tell me what you want me to say. Leave it in the comments. I'll do it.
And then there's I had someone reach out this year and like I kind of have a good radar of what's a genuine attempt and what's not.
Yeah.
And they were like, they did have some inflammatory language in there, but I could tell they were genuinely asking of like, why do you support Palestine if you care about gay people when it's like a very restrictive culture? And I was just like, hey, I mean, I think you're genuinely trying to reach out, so I'll give you a genuine answer. Like, first off, I am Palestinian and I'm a bisexual Palestinian woman. I don't cover my hair. I'm loved by my family. Everything's fine. And also, here are some things that you might not know. It's the education stuff, talking about the culture, all those things. It's a really good documentary that has, a bunch of academics talking about the effect of Hezbollah on U.S. public opinion. And he went, okay, cool. I'll try to watch this. And then he got back to me like 5 days later and was like, I watched this and I did more reading and I realized I was completely misled. And I just wanted to let you know that you genuinely changed my mind. And that made my fucking week. And then a couple weeks later, I got another message from him that was just kind of like gibberish. And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to copy the link of that documentary to send to some of my friends. Hope you're having a great day." And,
that's cool.
I think if we all tried to act like that a little more, and it's easy to be super combative online. I mean, once again, there are things that's just like, you don't have any interest in talking about this, but some people do. And trying to come at it from that perspective instead of a lecture can be really helpful.
Yeah. Hey, curiosity and empathy. It can sound cliche to talk about these things, guys, but they're maybe good. They're maybe good.
Yeah.
Well, Kat, I'll let you get back to what were you embroidering?
Yeah.
Okay. That's nice. We got embroidery. We got to get ready to move our life to Chicago, which is so great. So happy for you. Are you moving there at a very particular time of year where the weather's going to be nice for a bit and then it's going to come at you hard? Yeah.
I mean, I did move there like at the end of July.
Okay.
So like I'm just moving I had 2 big suitcases that I brought a lot of stuff, but I'm like packing up the furniture, all that shit. Really convenient time to move because it was like right before the DNC and I didn't have to go back to a hotel. Except the last night because then I just slept outside. But
yes, yeah, there's that. Well, that's great. And like truly, like genuinely big fan of your work. Really enjoyed it recently. It's been great to share with people. And I know our audience likes it a lot. People were excited when you said you were going to come hang out. What can people do? We shared the links to that video in your YouTube channel. Where else can people follow you and keep up with what you're doing?
So you can find me on YouTube and TikTok, Kat M. Abu. All my other links, I'm on like everything, but they have different names, so you can just find those in my link tree. Once again, please watch the video. I think it's and send it to anyone that would be interested in it or might learn something from it. I think it's a pretty good primer. You can watch part of it and then come back. YouTube saves stuff. Also check out the People for the American Way Foundation, my partner in making that video. They focus on trying to cultivate a vibrant future where everyone has basic rights and freedom. And they're usually a lot of those clips I only have, especially like the far right weird streamers, the Joel Webb and shit, because of people like Peter Montgomery, who worked with me on this, who also works with the People for the American Way, for People for the American Way. And so look at their website. I have it all in the links in the YouTube description. They have a little quiz you can take to see if you learned anything from the video. And if you want to donate to them, you absolutely can.
Yeah, and then mostly you want to watch it for the Christian rap, guys. So
mostly you want to watch it for the Christian rap of me in a little Catholic uniform, rapping Lecrae's Fanatic.
And then can you tease at all what you have coming down the pike and what sort of videos or anything you're working on now? If not, that's okay.
I actually have a whole wall of sticky notes here that are just videos that I want to get to at some point. My favorite, that's going to be a longer one, probably around half an hour, is titled "Michael Flynn Still Wants to Sell Your Blood." And come, but I can't include that in the title. So just keep a lookout for that. Would you like any of the other titles?
I mean, yeah, although now I'm just like, Michael Flynn, you better not come for my blood and come. What else? Yeah, sure. These are great. These titles.
Disappointing. Your favorite actor when you were a kid is now a regular Fox News guest. Frowny face.
Yep.
No, I shouldn't say that one. Cursed knowledge I possess about right-wing figures. I got this book for $2 at a used bookstore called The Manual, MAN-Ual, a time capsule for the age of pickup artists. It's a wildly sexist book of how to seduce women. And then one that just says, University of Austin, the pinnacle of griftification. I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce that. Anyways, I got a lot of stuff in the works. My brain is just mush.
Okay, well listen, those are good titles. If even half of those come to fruition, the internet's gonna be a better place.
They all will.
Oh, see, that confidence right there. It's so good. If we could all just have that confidence. Thank you so much for taking so much of your time to hang out with us.
Thank you for taking time on your stream to talk with me. This is really
fun.
Anytime.
Yeah. You have to once you get settled in Chicago, I'd love to have you back on sometime just to talk about Chicago eateries. Nothing political at all.
I do have a whole thing about Chicago pizza. It's not good. I'm not talking about deep dish. I'm talking about tavern style.
You don't like tavern style pizza?
That is the same way. For anyone that doesn't know, it's a big circle and you cut it like this. You're a children's book party. You're at like a
Everything that the
children's
cat
like
just
fifth
said
grade
is
birthday
wrong.
party, and you're
This is a
trying to make
liar.
sure that the pizza there's enough for everyone. So you cut it in a bad way. Every pizza I've had in Chicago is wet. Why the fuck is it wet? And every topping that you want to add on there is like $3 for like onions. Why am I paying $3 for onions? That should be 99 cents tops. Okay, now that you hate me, I'm gonna go.
Forgive him. Forgive her, Lord. She knows not what she does. I'm saying this for real. Which is I'm gonna DM you about this. I am sending you a tavern style pizza to your place when you're there. My favorite place on me, and I want
Cool.
your honest opinion on it, okay?
Okay, sounds good. I
Yes,
don't
this
want
is
it to be
happening.
wet. Everything is wet in the center, and it's bad. But
It
I
won't-
would absolutely love a free pizza on you that I can either roast or sing its values we could talk about on stream.
Okay, we're gonna do this, and we'll just have a pizza stream. Okay. Well, you have a great
All right.
day, Kat.
Bye, guys.
Wow. Never see you, Hellraiser flashlight. Never have I, had a chat with someone who I was so happy to have here, agreed with so much of what they said, who left me on a note like that. Unreal. Peace Pizza is very good, Elliot. Talk to Connor because that sounds great. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out for this conversation.
Wow, chat exploded about that pizza combo there.
Yeah, what is the name? I can look at my email later. There's a favorite place that I have. Is it? I mean that too, guys. I'm gonna send Kat a pizza. Wow, so much great stuff to get into there. We've had a really good stretch of interviews, on here. Did it feel nice to have a Texan on the show, Henry? You're often the only Texan we have.
I mean, at this point, I associate Texan with a very fake type of out-of-state persona, and also the state's so big that I don't even have a real good sense of what a Texan is because I'm from far west Texas, which is vastly different than central Texas. So,
because it's a little nation unto itself.
Yeah, we were chatting so much about property taxes and just things wrong with the way Texas funds stuff at the state level in the chat. I would have been more comfortable as a New Mexican, or can probably talk more about like what's going on in Las Cruces or Chihuahua than I can, Laredo.
Yeah. But and seriously, guys, like the reason we asked Kat to come on because I watched that video. I've been watching her videos for a bit now. And it's just really good, and it's a good dive into stuff. And I think if you watch the video from last Friday that we made, I think you'll get a kick out of that. Just a reminder, if you're here, please do subscribe if you're not subscribed, and you can ring the bell so that you get notifications when streams go live. I can't tell you exactly how to do it now because I'm in the Wisecrack account on our thing, so I can't do alerts for that. We have a video coming out this week that I think is kind of fun on personality test and why they're insane. And you'll get to know me a lot better because I did 2 different personality tests for the video. And then I even did a thing where I took the same test twice and it changed the results. Let's at least watch the Walz clip here. Okay, so this is the whole speech.
The whole video is like an hour long, but I gave you a timestamp.
Oh, you did? Okay, let me find that, guys. Oh, amazing. And this is, relative to what we've been talking about. I also put it went to 8:36, so that feels fine. Guys, Tim Walz said something funny yesterday. And again, we don't do politics here. I have no interest in politics, the election, any of that stuff. It's not what we do. But Tim Walz, America's Midwestern uncle, said something very funny yesterday. And it said it about Elon Musk. And in particular, it's talking about Musk's moves at that Trump event we watched where he was like, I'm dark MAGA. And he said something funny. And it just reminded me too of how
he's been doing the hop in more places.
Okay, he's hopping all around America.
But yeah, he's doing his little X leapfrogging across the country.
Yeah, do you guys ever wonder, like, what if there was a transphobic pro-apartheid kangaroo? I'd love to see that. And it's like Elon's like, I'm here. But Walz has kind of been on ice. He's been in the carbon, like the stuff they put Han Solo in. And it seems like they've let him out because they're like, oh, our numbers are dropping and now it's tied. Maybe we let, Timmy cook. And they let him cook a little bit. So let's watch this clip right here. Is it pulled up and everything? And click, go.
That's where he's been spending his time. But that's it. So, look, Elon's on that stage, jumping around, skipping like a dipshit. Tell me you don't see this one coming from a mile away. And that's where he's been spending his time. But
this is him just talking about Elon Musk. And this was at a rally, in Wisconsin. This is the same day they had Eminem at a rally yesterday.
So, look, Elon's on that stage, jumping around, skipping like a dipshit on these things. You know it.
The "you know it" is so good.
Think about it.
I'm bracketing politics here. I'm going to tell you why I find joy in that, and you can tell me why I'm wrong, chat. And again, thank you for being here. I just like pathos in a human being. You know what I mean? I like when people seem like a real person. And so many politicians, journalists, streamers, media figures just seem so deeply full of shit. Seem like they don't believe in anything. They don't have feelings. Like they're not operating from a place of genuine human pathos. And honestly, I felt like that was a pathetic moment. I mean, pathetic in the Greek sense. I think that's Pathek and or IK or something like that. I haven't taken Greek in a lot of years, guys. But I've eaten some Greek food since then. Delicious cuisine. But, I just think, Walz isn't a dad, he's an uncle. It was a nice cathartic moment. Now, of course, I think what we're going to see is some reaction where some Democrats are going to say that was bad on the same day. My eyes are blue, Sean. Or maybe that was a joke you were making. But, the same day Trump's like, I need guys like Hitler. I need Hitler's generals. And they can say that, and Walz can't even do that. Someone said Walz doesn't even own a house. He's us. He doesn't have stocks, guys. He doesn't have stocks. He has, you know what he has? A teacher's pension fund. Teacher's pension fund. Here, we'll watch that clip one more time, guys. Let me see if I can scroll back to the right. Or we can start here again.
Yeah, that's where he's been spending his time.
And note, because this clip is so long, guys, I can't do my remixing, but I want you to know that I want to.
DJ Michael is spiritually here.
If this were a shorter clip, DJ Burns, maybe DJ Roots would just be going nuts.
But that's it. So, look, Elon's on that stage, jumping around, skipping like a dipshit on these things.
We gotta bring dipshit back. We gotta bring dipshit back. Again, we're not endorsing candidates here. We're not talking about politics. I don't even believe the voting's real. I think it's a simulacrum that convinces us we live in a democracy when we don't. It's just funny.
Think about it.
So I posted this on Twitter yesterday with some sort of comment, and someone who I'll say there's a few of, I'll say you, I don't know if any of you are here, who do this sort of thing. And if you are, I appreciate you. I feel like I have some like frenemies from our audience who are people that reply to things I say and tell me why I'm dumb and I'm wrong and stuff like that. But in a way where I feel like there's some good faith. And one of those people, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your name right now, said that that's actually why men hate the left, young men hate the left, because people like Elon Musk so much. I don't think that's true. Like young men who are left-leaning, let's say, do you guys like Elon Musk? Do you think he's like a cool guy? That thing that you're into as a person? I don't know. But I think that's fun. There's a lot of other stuff we could talk about. I'll say one thing, there's been like a lot of really insane debate and drama with some very popular and famous streamers this week. Some people in the Twitch community have gotten banned from the platform, and here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to be careful here. I'm going to say snitching is bad. And I'm going to say if any person, a streamer, a podcaster, a host, tells their audience or tells you to tattletale, it's not good. I asked online the other day, why did the younger generation become a bunch of snitches? And someone said YouTube taught them. Now, when I say don't snitch, like if you know of a murder about to happen, sure. But I come from a generation, this is old man Burns right now. I'm still Gen Z, but I'm old man Burns. snitching isn't cool. It's just like not cool. It's not cool to like tag people online to like get them in trouble. It's not cool to email like the Anti-Defamation League and be like, this gamer is bad and get them canceled. Like, it's just dumb. And I don't care what side you do that on. If you are a hardcore leftist trying to get Charlie Kirk in trouble, like, stop snitching. Just stop snitching. Okay? It's not cool. It's not good. Another thing I'll say related to this is don't listen to people. Don't spend your time listening to anyone that doesn't operate with some sort of human empathy. Yesterday, I kind of watched some different streams yesterday. I kind of checked in with some of these people. And, I tuned into one stream, and the host and the audience were just shredding this woman apart. And this is a host and an audience that identifies as liberal. And I think it was a woman who, expressed a solidarity with the people of Gaza. I'm just going to tell you guys, we get so online brained. I get it too. I really do. But it doesn't look good when you're a part of a community that's just like shitting, especially if you're a mostly male community, just like shitting on women. Not good. Joking about their appearance, it's just like not cool. Maybe I sound like a cop right now. And maybe that's confusing because you're like, which one is it? Are you a cop or do I not snitch? Which one is it? Eddie asks how I define snitching. I think that how would I define snitching? Well, let's use the childhood example. Like if you're in school, if any fifth graders are watching, why are you watching? You better be with your parent. But if you're in fifth grade and your friend Timmy in class cheats on a test, that's Timmy's problem. It has nothing to do with you. You know what I'm saying? If you are at a store, you're at a CVS or a Walgreens, and you see someone in front of you and they steal a bar of deodorant. No, you didn't. If you're at a Whole Foods, you see someone go through a self-checkout with a lovely steak and they put it on the scale and they tell the scale that was an onion. Did you see it? Nah, you didn't. You know what I'm saying? If someone online says something that you don't agree with, you don't, it's sort of like the libs of TikTok shit, right? If someone says something you don't agree with, you don't email their boss. There's that guy, is it Shy David, the professor that got banned from Columbia University's campus? This guy emailed the law firm that a Columbia student's dad worked at because she participated in a solidarity protest with Gazans. That's snitch shit right there. And I'll be honest, all the people, and there's been, you guys don't need me to say names. You know what it is. It's all over. But anyone who's ever hey, my little army, everyone go tattle. That's just not cool. Not cool, And I think it's kind of like baby behavior, So let's see. Oh, did someone get mad at me in the chat? Someone being mean? I don't care. Be mean if you want.
I was
if it feels good, if snitching feels good, if going in a random chat. I don't know. I saw someone say, someone said, don't go on another creator's platform and attack their followers. They're coming for the Wisecrack content, not a random asshole commenter or troll. No one better attack our followers because I know that y'all ain't snitches. I know that you're not. I know that you're not snitches. And I'll end with this. The reason we don't want to snitch, rap snitches telling our Lonkin Pork, thank you so friggin' much. The main thing here we just want to say is just remember, empathy rips, guys. Empathy rips. And I just don't want you to listen to anyone in the world who operates without a fundamental human empathy. Any creator of anything, if they're making fun of dead people, it's not empathetic. They're bullying women for their appearance. Come on, guys. You know what I'm saying? And I know that you guys are good. You're good. You're great people. You like good pizza. You're not like Cat. But, snitching. I'm sorry. Cat's the best. I'm so glad we got to talk to her. She'll come back sometime. What a cool person. It's always cool when someone who you think is going to be cool from watching their videos just is that person. But, don't snitch. Be empathetic. Just don't be weird. I want you all to have a nice time. I want you all to be good people. I want you to be happy. I want you to have friendship. I want you to find love. So there you go. Alley Cattail says, just do what's in your heart. Well, you can make fun of dead people that suck. I realize there's a contradiction what I'm saying there. But not, like when Dick Cheney dies, have a field day, have a field day. We're going to be back Monday, streaming hard for y'all. And then we might do some different stuff in a couple weeks. We'll kind of have a conversation about it. I know the Monday of election week, November 3rd, I'm going to be out that day. So Henry and I can talk if we want to do a makeup stream on election day itself. The day after the election, we'll have a long stream. And again, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff that day. We're going to talk a lot that day. Let's see. Yeah, I don't say it's not snitching if someone in this chat is like being a dick and we're like, hey, stop being a dick. That's not snitching. Snitching, here's what snitching would be. I'm going to give you guys an example and we're going to go. Snitching would be like if someone came in this chat and they were like a dick. They said, I suck and I should die and I'm a bald bitch and they could never even jay off to me. If they said that, we can tell them to stop. We can silence them. But if one of you like found their username and you sort of reverse searched and you found out who the person was, and then if I was like, hey guys, we found their social media stuff and I put it on screen and I was like, tell them to fuck off. That's I think that's like a snitch type of behavior. Or what's explicitly snitching would be like if we did that and we found their employer and they worked at like the Taco Bell in Massapequa, Long Island, and we were like, everyone called the Taco Bell in Massapequa and say that. Like that's like definitely snitching. But the most important thing I think I got from this whole stream is like, feel free to jay off to this stream. I think that's the most important thing. I think I'm both disturbed and jealous by the fact that Kat gets messages from people who are like, hey, I was jaying off to your video and it really changed my mind. Let me know how you want me to dress. If there's stuff I can do to like look different. If there's voices that you find particularly arousing, hit us up at wisecrack live666@gmail.com. Leave it in the comments. I would love to be that for you. Thanks once again, speaking of jaying off, to Yes Please Coffee. If you need the energy to goon all night, you're going to want to use Yes Please. It's delicious coffee. We love it so much. You can use the code Wisecrack. Hellraiser Fleshlight, your username says that you like to jay. Great ideas right here. Again, leave them in the comments. Shoot us an email. Get coffee. Follow Kat. Be curious. Value empathy. Don't snitch. And most important, listen to MF Doom. We'll see you Monday. Thanks, guys.